Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to our inaugural online session of raising connected, happy, successful kids through art in challenging times. We are so grateful for you to be sharing your time with us in this way. This program is being presented by UCLArts Healing as part of our free Hope, Healing Online for People Everywhere series, which was created to enable our global community to build resilience through the arts during this unprecedented time. To learn more about the 20+ sessions offered in this series over the next few months, head to our website after this workshop. Without further ado, I will hand it over to our presenters today, authors of the 2019 National Parenting Products Award-winning book, The Innovative Parent, Erica Curtis and Ping Ho.
So we're going to move into part 5 now, and this is where we're going to talk about talking about art, okay, and how we can promote goals and strengths in the way that we talk about art. And this is just for everybody to know, this is our last part, part 5, and then we are going to be going into Q&A after this, okay? So Ping and I are going to demonstrate in just a moment, but just really wanting to highlight the importance of how we talk to kids about art, right? And typically when we see our children's art, right, or they'll even ask us like, look, or do you like it? You know, we usually say, yeah, I like it. Looks good, right? I'll put it up on the fridge. And so what we want to do is we want to take the next step. Right, we want to take the next step to really seeing art as a doorway to their world, not just refrigerator decoration, which is lovely to have, right? But not only can we learn a lot more about our child, but they can learn a lot more about themselves. Children can feel more seen and heard, right, and have a lot more insight. And if nothing else, by asking them questions about their art and getting really curious about it, not only are you demonstrating interest in them, but it helps their cognitive processes to start really thinking through and articulating through language what they mean and why they made it and how they feel when they look at it, right? So to remind you of that previous image of the boy who had drawn the mad face when he was at school and then drew the picture with the laser focus, right? That by talking to him just about what was in the picture, not what we assumed it meant, he was able to start coming to his own meaning. So that's why it's so important, okay? And you can do this with any art that a child makes. We use some language, some simple language to lead with, such as I see, I notice, and I wonder. So if you just keep these 3 phrases in your back pocket, I see, I notice, and I wonder, okay, that is going to be really all you need in order to launch a conversation with a child about their art, okay? So I'm going to demonstrate this right now with Ping. So Ping, do you have a piece of artwork there that you'd like to share today?
Yes, I decided to engage my 6-year-old granddaughter who actually offered her services during our call, and I said, you might need to wait a little bit longer. so anyway.
That was very kind of her.
Yeah, it really was. So here's what she shared.
Okay, so I see some words and I see this shape. So I'm really wondering about this. Tell me a little bit about it.
So when I asked her, she said, I wrote it on the back, I want to make people feel good and nice.
All right. So Ping, if you could for a moment just pretend like you are your granddaughter, right? And I'm going to ask you a couple more questions or kind of invite you to tell me a little bit more even about it. All right. Okay. So tell me those words. You want people, tell me that again.
I want to make people feel good and nice.
I want to make people feel good and nice. And I see that you drew with a couple different colors. Tell me about that.
I used red and gold because I like these colors.
You like those colors. I'm wondering if when you think about those colors or you look at those colors, if you have any feelings. Do they make you feel a certain way when you look at the colors you like?
Yeah, they make me feel happy.
They make you feel happy? Uh-huh. Yeah. And you have written something on the top and inside of the shape also. Can you tell me about your words?
Well, these are binoculars, and inside the binoculars it says, I see you, you're cool.
Oh, I see you. You are cool. Yeah. And so it sounds like those binoculars, right, can see. And I'm wondering if they see, it sounds like there maybe is, say, you're saying, I see you. So are the binoculars seeing me?
Yes, they would be seeing you.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it sounds like the message is. Can they see anything else?
They see nice people. They see good people.
Oh, oh. So at this point, I might get very curious about what happens with people who aren't nice or good, right? What would happen about that? Um,
I'll have to ask her.
yeah.
Actually, I'm going to share something interesting because she did a lot of art, and I asked her to comment on each one. And she said to me, that's not what I was thinking when I made it. And I was able to say to her, it doesn't matter, because when we look at our art afterwards, that's when we get ideas.
Right.
Right. And so I thought it was interesting that she was able to make that connection, that wasn't her intention. She's commenting on it, and it wasn't necessarily what she was thinking when she made it, which is the whole point.
Right, right. Now, if you can hold that up again.
Sure.
Now, she helped us out a lot here because she wrote very clearly, these are binoculars, right? So she's pretty much telling us what the drawing is of, right? Now, if those words weren't there, and so we could say, oh, I see this says these are binoculars. I was kind of overstating the not interpreting, but we can clearly see that these are binoculars. I see you, you are cool, right? And so if those words weren't there, though, which is how I was kind of playing it off, as if we needed to really ask questions and be curious about it because we didn't have as much information, we might make some assumptions about what the shape is. Right. And so we want to be really careful, because I'm guessing that a lot of you, in looking at this shape, would not have necessarily guessed binoculars.
I would not have.
It reminds me of a heart. It reminds me of even like a face with hair, right?
Or a mouth, a large mouth.
Yeah, or a large open mouth, right? And so we can have so many different interpretations of an image. That's why it's so important to say, oh, I see you use some different colors. You've made a shape. I'm wondering about that. Tell me about that. And what do you notice? Now, sometimes kids will say, do you like it? Okay. And what we strongly recommend is that, that you take a little bit of time. If you're going to say you like it, right? If you're going to say that, take a little bit of time first to explore it with them. And you could even say, I'll tell you in a minute. But first, I'm really curious about it, right? And sometimes by time you're done getting so curious about it, they don't really need to ask that question anymore, or they don't need the answer anymore, because they feel that you like it. They feel that you like them. Right? They feel felt and heard. So we're going to do this same picture a little bit differently now, just so you can see the difference. Okay, so we're going to kind of rewind and push play again and pretend like you didn't see that other one for a second. Okay, all right. So Ping, I noticed your drawing here.
Yeah,
I really like it. You did such a good job with it.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a heart. Oh, wait, no, it's not a heart, because you wrote up there that it's binoculars. Oh, they're binoculars. Oh, yeah, they kind of look like binoculars. I love it. You did such a good job. You're such a good artist.
Thank you.
Okay. And of course, I totally overplayed that also, but just to make a point, right? Ping, what was that like for you? What was the difference for you?
The difference was I didn't have anything to say the second time around. With all those positive judgments, all I could say was thank you. And when you started to say it looked like a heart, and then you said, oh, it's binoculars, then my little heart sinks that, uh-oh, she didn't get it. And then I didn't really quite believe that you really liked it, or that you're a good artist.
Yeah.
Because it didn't fit with my experience of your response.
Right.
And honestly, Erica, I don't think you overplayed it. I hear that all the time.
Yeah.
Way, way, way overstating how much a piece of art is liked, and how that impacts the child is, it's there can be many unintended consequences.
That's right. That's right. You know, at the last workshop that we did up in LA, there was a participant that I did this role play with, and you know, it was her response was so interesting to me, because we did the first one when I was very curious about it, and she was actually talking about her scribble. That's what she used. And then I did the second one where she showed me the scribble again, which she had turned into a flower. And I said, wow, you drew a flower. That's so pretty. You did such a good job. And she was like, thanks. Same, right? Like, oh, thanks. And then I asked her how she felt afterwards about the two different versions. And she said, in the first one, I felt like you liked it. In the second one, I thought you didn't like it. And it was interesting because in the first version, I never said I liked it. And in the second version, I said I like it. And she said, I felt in the first like you liked it. And in the second one, I felt like you didn't. Yeah. Because she's like, you had nothing else to say about it. You just said, good job. I like it. Looks good. Right? Yeah. So, okay. We're going to return to the screen here. And we are going to now talk about the process of art making as well, and how we can comment on a child's process through making art. So it's not uncommon when my kids are drawing, you know, I might be walking past them and they will maybe literally have drawn a line and they'll go, Mommy, what do you think? Right? And I'll look at it and I'll say, well, it looks like you just got started. Keep at it. I can't wait to see what you made. Right? And so that is, if we look at this list here on the screen, that is reinforcing my value as a parent of perseverance, right? That I want my kids to learn to stick with things, right? Even if they're looking for praise earlier, even if they're looking for guidance, right? And if they needed a little bit of guidance, you know, we could have talked about that. Because then maybe I would have said like, well, it looks like you're stuck, but that might have looked differently than, you know, Mommy, what do you think? Do you like it? Right? But if I see that they've just gotten started, I'll say, looks like you just got started. Keep at it. Keep working at it. Right? Because that's the value of perseverance. So the lovely thing about art is that it is process oriented, and we spend so much time in our culture focusing on the product, the outcome. What does it look like? What's hanging on the wall? What's hanging on the fridge? Right? What did you make? What did you perform? What was the outcome, right? And so when we shift to really considering the process that we move through when we're making art, there's just a field of opportunities to practice the types of skills, strengths, and qualities that we want children to be using during their chores, at school, as they get older in terms of relationship habits and work habits and whatnot. So I'm going to invite you right now at home, and Peng, I'm going to invite you to do this as well. Take a look at this list. Think about a child in your life and pick one or maybe two goals or qualities or strengths that you would like to build in that child, okay? And it can be your own child, it can be a child that you work with, a child that you mentor, a grandchild, okay? So pick a child right now, or children, and what one or two, and it might be all of them, but just for the sake of doing this, what one or two qualities might you really want to see this child flourish in? Okay, and Ping, go ahead and do that as well.
Okay.
And if you think of a different word, that's fine also. This is just kind of a sample of words to get your juices flowing, but think about, what do I really want to cultivate in this child? All right, so if you think of other words, and then go ahead and write those down. And then Ping and I are going to demonstrate how we might reinforce this strength through making an observation about one's process, about a child's process of art making. So Ping, give me one of the words that you selected.
I actually selected one that wasn't on there. It's flexibility.
Flexibility.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so Ping, how might you, if you saw, and were you thinking about a child in particular, one of your grandchildren,
Yes,
or?
yes, I was actually.
Yeah.
Real
So
quick.
if you can sort of picture when they're making their art,
Mhm.
right? What's a moment when you might see them demonstrating flexibility?
Ah, I noticed you were flexible and let your sister choose the color first.
Aha. Yeah. So that's absolutely a flexible moment,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
Yeah. Any other times that you can think about when they might demonstrate flexibility?
Yes, I noticed you were flexible and let your sister have the last blueberry.
Yeah, so we can see the crossover, right? The
Mhm.
nice thing is with art, this is this is a very low stakes sort of situation, low stress typically, not always. Sometimes art making isn't low stress, especially if you have kids that are kind of perfectionistic but it's a low stress situation to practice the skill of saying, hey, I noticed that you were really flexible and shared your glue stick, or I noticed, and then this can carry over into other places like snack time. I noticed you were flexible and shared your blueberry, right?
Mhm.
With my own children, I noticed flexibility, for example, when um, when they make a mistake, what they consider to be a mistake in their drawing, um, but they work with it, or they erase it and they change it, or work at it again. I might say, wow, you were really flexible. You drew something that you weren't happy with, and then you changed the direction of where it was going and you worked with it. That was flexible, right? Yeah. So you can take any number of these. Think about just for at home, and then we're going to go to the last slide and finish up here. Think about that strength. Think about a time, or watch for it even. The next time your kids are making art or drawing or dancing or singing or whatever they're doing, think about how is this quality manifesting right now, and can I make a comment about it? Using I see, I notice, and I wonder, right? I see you're being very, let's see, I'm going to go back to my screen so I can see my words here. Right? You are really thinking of others by passing the scissors to your siblings. That is so creative. I've never seen you make a drawing that looks quite like that before. Boy, you are working hard. You have been sitting and working on this task for like a good 20 minutes. Boy, you were just really going at it, right? So you can see all these different ways to comment on the process of art making. And if you're so inclined, if you want to learn more about this and you're interested in getting the book, there's a lot of information in the book that goes into more detail, and we have charts in the back about ideas and of how you can talk about children while making art, or about their product in order to reinforce these strengths and qualities. Okay, so we're going to pull it all together now with a short little animated video that I created. I'm going to just set the scene for you. So we were doing a workshop for an after-school program called LA's Best, and we were training their trainers. But beforehand, they said, hey, since you're going to be here anyways, would you be willing to do something with our students, with our children? So we said, absolutely. And so we had a room, Ping and I had a room at about 30 kids. It was classroom size, right? 32 kids. And so the first activity, or the first prompt, was draw a plant. That was all they were asked to do. Now you'll recognize that this is very similar to the draw an emoji activity that we did at the very beginning of this workshop. But in this situation, especially because we had so many kids to sort of move around and in between, we went with draw a plant. It can be a flower, it can be a tree, it can be a cactus, it can be whatever, it can be a weed, whatever you want, okay? And so I'm going to show you an interaction that I actually had with one of the girls that was there. She was probably about 10, 11, 12, 10, 11 years old. So she was drawing flowers. Oh, it won't. Let me get my pause button ready. Okay. So I noticed she was drawing flowers. And so I came over and I said, oh, I noticed you're drawing flowers. I wonder if they have anything to say. Okay. Just like we did with the emojis. Remember? I wonder what it would say. And she said, yes, they do. And so she drew a word bubble there and she wrote, I'm scared. And I said, do any of the other ones have anything to say? And she said, yes. And this one drew, I'm scared too. So then I asked, same with the emojis, I wonder if they're thinking anything. Okay, so now we have this garden of flowers and one saying I'm scared and the other one says I'm scared too. And she said yes, one is thinking something, and she drew a thought bubble and wrote, we had a lockdown. Then I asked her if the flowers needed anything to help them. And she said, yes, they need a cat. They would feel better if they had a cat in the garden. So she drew a cat. And I said, well, would the cat be saying anything? And this is that helpful thought that we worked on earlier, right? And so the cat says, you're okay now. Now remember, this was a group of 30 kids. And so at this point, it was a pretty brief interaction I had with her. I went around the room and Ping and I were kind of tag teaming, and I went and checked in with the other kids. And then I came back to this little girl and I told her I would check in with her flowers. So I said, how are those flowers doing now? And this is important because I want to really highlight again what I'm doing here. I'm not saying how are you doing? I'm saying how are those flowers doing? Okay, so that's the objectivity that she's getting to be able to project her feelings onto. All right, and she responded, they're still scared. So I asked her, do you want to give them anything more? And she said, yes, they need a house. And I said, would you like to draw that house for them? And she said, yes. So she drew a big house over all of the flowers. And I said, how are they doing now? And she said, well, they're still scared. And I said, well, I noticed that they're scared and they're in the house. So noticing that language, I'm making observations about her drawing. I noticed that they're scared and in the house. Is that okay? And she took a deep breath. And she said, yes, that's so much better. Okay. So thank you so much for joining us today and sticking it through for those of you who are still with us. We just wanted to remind you that this workshop is based off of our award-winning book, The Innovative Parent, Raising Connected, Happy, Successful Kids Through Art. These are the places where you can obtain a copy of the book. And Ping, would you like to say a little bit more about it?
It's useful for parents, educators, mental health professionals, arts professionals, nonprofit personnel, anyone who works directly with children or teens. The chapters are designed to stand alone. So if you need to read the chapter on connection, you can read that chapter and not have to read the whole book in sequence. All activities are clearly marked with a C, T, or P for child, teen, or parent. There's some self-care stuff in there for being a parent, which we know, and any adult can benefit from self-care in working with children or teens. And there's a handy section in the back with guidelines in charts, so that pulls from information in the book for talking about art and life with non-judgmental language. So it's designed to be user-friendly.
Great, thank you.